Hey guys, Christy Dosh here with Guide My Brand. I'm so excited to jump on and talk about why I believe press releases are dead. I'm also going to talk about what I think you should be doing instead. This actually came up from seeing someone in another group try to get some advice on her press release, and she was trying to figure out how to distribute her press release out on the wires, and I asked what she was trying to accomplish and gave her some advice about what she could do instead. And I realized that maybe a lot of you who are trying to get your business out there and be more visible are thinking about doing a press release, or maybe you have. And so I want to talk about why press releases, they're dead. Let them go. Let them rest in peace. We are going to talk about some awesome ways you can get coverage that are far more effective than anything you could ever do with a press release. I am just going to invite a few people that I know wanted to hear this topic today. So let's just invite a few of you on here that I know were looking for this topic. I wish there was a way that it let you invite folks before you went live. And if there is a way and I have somehow missed it, then by all means, please tell me what it is, because I hate having to do this once you're live, and so I generally just don't do it. But I know there were several people in the group who really wanted to hear about this topic, and I want to give them that chance to hear about it live. Then you get to ask questions, and we get to chat and have fun times together, and who doesn't want that, right? So I have been in business now. I'm going to talk while I invite these last few people in. I know it looks like I'm probably like poking you guys on the screen. I was trying to invite people from my phone, but that didn't want to work. I know they said that Facebook is going to come up with these new fun ways to do Facebook Lives where you can have a set time and do a waiting room. And so then you could invite people in advance and they would be there and ready for you when you go live. And you wouldn't have to sit here and invite people and tap around on the screen when you're supposed to be live. Okay, sent the last invitation. So let's get down to business. I think I invited everybody who said they were interested in this topic. Okay, so I've been in business for 18 months now. Well, a little over 18 months. February 1st was 18 months for me. So I'm a little past 18 months now. And I can count on one hand. In fact, I can count with 2 fingers the number of times I have written a press release. Okay, now my entire job is, just to get comfortable here, is to get coverage for people in the media, both traditional media and online media, and yet I have sent 2 press releases, 2, the entire time I've been in business. And in fact, my current client roster, I have not sent a single press release for anyone I have currently. In fact, the 2 people I sent press releases for, I begged and pleaded with them not to make me send the press release, because if you guys know, my background is as a journalist, also as an attorney before that, but in my second life, I'm now like in my 3rd incarnation of my career as a publicist. In my second life, where I still spend some time, I was a journalist, and I still am. I'm a contributor at Forbes and at Fast Company, and I get a lot of email pitches and a lot of press releases. And I can tell you as a journalist that I can also probably count on one hand over, let's see, I've been writing for Forbes or for a major outlet for almost 10 years now, and I bet I can count on one hand the number of times I've written a story that was based on a press release that I received, especially from a press release from someone I didn't know, okay? Now, sometimes I get forwarded press releases from PR folks and from businesses where I already have an existing relationship. It's a little different, but honestly still, once I see that format, that it's a press release, and God forbid you put the words press release in the subject line. Please, I beg of you, even if you're going to send the press release, please don't put it in the subject line, because I'm telling you, journalists just won't open it, because they get too many. Okay, I'm a contributor at Forbes and at Fast Company, but I've been at Forbes a really long time. I spent some time, a couple of years at ESPN as a reporter. I've written for Golf Digest and Glamour and Men's Health and so on and so forth. And so writers and businesses, or PR folks and businesses find me and want to pitch me. And I average something like 40 or 50 email pitches a day. That's including press releases and direct pitches. Christina knows what I'm talking about. She's chiming in, and I know that she has worked in PR as well. So press releases. I'm trying to think where to start without totally like just getting on my soapbox about press releases. It's so impersonal, and so often I find that the press release isn't tailored at all to what I do. And so my immediate reaction when I receive a press release, especially when it's sent from someone whose name I don't recognize, is to just get rid of it as fast as possible, because the odds that it's going to be relevant to what I write about, so slim. Like, I can tell you, breezing through my inbox today, I had a press release about a t-shirt that was like the last t-shirt you ever have to buy. I've actually gotten this press release quite a few times. And they wanted me to write about this like indestructible t-shirt they had. I've never written about anything like that. Okay. I write about sports business for Forbes. So maybe if it had a sports angle to it, if a professional athlete was endorsing it or something like that, maybe it would have been a good fit. But there was absolutely nothing in the pitch that had anything to do with sports. And then for Fast Company, I write about entrepreneurship, but they actually weren't pitching me for Fast Company. They were pitching me for Forbes. So I don't know, maybe they would have had an angle for Fast Company. But I found that people go through these databases. There's one that's called Cision. There's a couple of other big ones. And as a writer, without my permission or really knowledge, I get added to these databases, and then people pay to get access to the database, and they search keywords, and they just pull every writer who comes up with for the keyword. And as a writer, like, I didn't choose the keywords that are in there. I can actually contact Cision and get my my profile updated and changed, but I was in there for a couple of years without even knowing I was in there. In fact, they had my home address in there, which was like beyond disturbing to me, that they were just putting my home address out there. Hi. Hi, Karen. I see you too. I'm so thankful for those of you who are here live to hear about why I hate press releases. I hate them as a journalist and as a PR person. If you didn't catch the beginning of the broadcast, I told you I've been in business something like 18 months, and I have written 2 press releases against my will, begged the clients not to. And I can tell you that those press releases got squat in terms of coverage. Okay. But here's what did get coverage, actually, in both of those instances. So one of those companies is an online matchmaking, or I'm sorry, not online, but is a matchmaking company. They're international. And they would do press releases when they ran surveys and had these survey results. And we would put them out on the wire. So you might see organizations like PR Newswire, where you can put your press release and it'll tout how far it distributes it and how many people see it. Well, guess what? No one sees it that's going to write about it. Journalists do not go search the wire. Maybe they did once upon a time, but in the almost 10 years that I've been writing, I have never searched the wire for a story. My stories come from things I see and experience, or from people I know who pitch me, or sometimes people who don't know me, but who write a compelling pitch. And a compelling pitch is never a press release. I promise you. You can ask any journalist, and I bet they would agree with me. And as a matter of fact, a lot of PR folks would agree with me now too. I was just listening to 2 PR folks on a podcast last week. One hosted the podcast, and she had a publicist who was on with her, and they got to talking about this same subject, and they said the exact same thing. They said they might put press releases together for a client, and it's something you might send as part of a follow-up. And that, I agree with that. You want to, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it, but here's the summary, okay? You want to have a more personal approach when you go to a writer or a reporter or a TV producer or whatever it is the first time. You need a more personal approach, and I am going to tell you exactly how to do that. So stay tuned to this live. I'm just summarizing right now. You want to have a more personal approach with them. And it's sort of, you're sort of warming up the conversation. And then if they show interest, you might have a press release that you would send them. Now, the only time I would do that is if internal PR team at the company, I've represented some bigger companies, and if the internal PR team at the company had prepared a press release and given it to me, then I might use it in a follow-up, because they probably will have gone to executives and gotten quotes already. They're going to be in that press release, and that will allow the writer sometimes to write a piece really quickly without having to conduct their own interview, because they can pull those quotes. Now, if I didn't have an internal PR team I was dealing with and it was me, I would follow up with them and I would have more details I would give them. I might have even had some quotes that the client gave me or that I drafted on behalf of the client. We do that too, to make sure you sound great and that you're focusing on the right things, that we would send back, or we would set up a time for them to interview you. I mean, that's always ideal when you can get on the phone and build a relationship with them. They're more likely to follow your journey and want to cover you again in the future if they develop a relationship with you. So anytime I can get my client on the phone with an editor, writer, producer, whoever it is, I absolutely do. So you need this more personal approach, okay? I will write things sometimes that I don't even have like the biggest level of interest in as a journalist, because the PR person who reached out to me is someone that I like, someone who's done things for me in the past, gotten me a really, someone who was really hard to get, put me in touch with someone I wouldn't have otherwise been in touch with, did, whatever. I have some reason that I like them and want to help them. I'm not going to write things that aren't true or cover things that are like outside of my wheelhouse. But if they pitch me something that fits my beat and I feel like I want to continue my relationship with them, I might write something that I'm not like totally super jazzed about. I turn stuff like that down too. So it's on a case-by-case basis, but it's the power of relationships. And you guys know this because it's true in so many other areas of business. And it's true when it comes to getting coverage for you, your business, your products. Sorry guys, my nose is itching. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. So if you're here with me live and you want to know what you can do instead of sending a press release, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it, I've landed my clients newspaper features, front page of the business section in their local paper. As a matter of fact, I have a client who just had an interview for one last week. I've landed magazine features. I've got a client with a cookbook who are landing recipes in magazines. I've gotten mentions of my client's product, podcast interviews, guest blogs, contributing roles in places. We get tons of press for our clients without sending press releases, okay? So if you're here and you want to know how we do that, drop a 1 for me in the comments so I know you're here and you're jazzed about learning this new PR technique, because I'm excited to share it with you, because the more of you I tell about this, the less of you will send press releases. And I feel like I'm doing a favor for journalists all over the globe by teaching you not to send press releases. Hi, Carrie. Don't worry. I tried to invite everyone who showed interest in this topic so you would know I was going live, because I know I didn't say what time I was going live. And that's because I was busy pitching clients. I had a client I spent hours today pitching. In fact, I think I sent pitches to 12 different magazines, and that takes a while because they're all kind of custom. It's not just a cut and paste sort of thing. So I wasn't sure exactly what time I was going to be able to go live, and I just went live as soon as I could. Okay, so let's get to the meat of this. What do you do instead of sending press releases? So first and foremost, know that it's a quality, not a quantity game, okay? There are ways that you can write a press release, put it on the wires. They'll tell you it reaches like all these bazillion people. There are even ways at some newspapers to send in a press release, and basically they, like on their digital site, they'll like copy and paste your press release essentially and put it out there, but it's like buried on their site. That's not somewhere anyone's ever going to read, and you don't want your press release just republished. That's not PR. Getting your press release republished does nothing for you, I promise. Usually those things cost money, like putting it out on the wire, that costs money, and it's not cheap, and I'm telling you, it does nothing. I've done it for 2 different clients, and in addition to doing the press release in sort of the traditional route that they wanted me to do, I also did what I'm going to teach you now as far as personal outreach, and that's how we got the coverage, okay? So one of my clients was an international matchmaker, and they had me put out this press release on the wire that did nothing. But what I did was go around, and it was a certain dating trend that they were focusing on, and I went around and looked for writers who wrote about dating trends. So I looked at all the major sort of magazine outlets. Sorry guys, my phone, it just keeps like making noises over here. Normally I remember to turn it off. I did remember to unplug my landline, which sometimes is super obnoxious, but right now my text messages are blowing up. Sorry about that. So I looked for writers who I already knew had an interest. I did not go on Cision or any of those and look for the keyword dating, because you're going to end up picking up people who maybe wrote about dating one time 8 years ago. I mean, I get people now who pitch me to write about online dating. I haven't written about online dating in almost 4 years. They will pitch me for a piece at Men's Health. I haven't written for Men's Health in 4 years. I probably could if I wanted to, but that's not, what I'm trying to do anymore. But they don't know that because they didn't take the time to research me. So they wasted time and sent me a pitch, or God forbid, a press release. And I have to write them back, and sometimes I don't even write them back, and tell them I'm not at Men's Health anymore. I don't write for Men's Health, and I don't write about online dating anymore. So the more effective thing to do, even from a time perspective, even though this takes a little legwork, this is the more efficient way to do things, is to look up your kind of keywords. So I have a client right now who has an online dating website, a brand new website, to compete with Match and eHarmony and all those sorts of things, this online dating website and app. And what we did was look up people who had written about online dating websites in the past. And we created this spreadsheet of writers who had covered an online dating website, in the last 12 to 18 months, I would say. And then we reached out to them directly. So I didn't write a press release. I had a pitch, which included some of the same information I might have put in a press release, but I pitched it in a very personal manner. It's the same thing I did for the matchmaking company. And it's the same thing I'm going to tell you about in a minute for another company that I did a press release for that went nowhere. And then I did this sort of personal outreach. The best thing you can do is in that opening paragraph. First of all, killer subject line, okay? Think about what's going to make them open it, because a lot of times they're not even going to open it, okay? They get so many pitches, they are not going to click and open it. You're not even going to get the chance to go into your pitch because they're not going to open it because the subject line's a total okay? I don't think I've ever done that on a live, but if any moment called for it, it was this one. I have tons in my inbox that I get people pitching me to write on Forbes about their company or about the athlete they represent or whatever that I never open because I can tell from the subject line it's not something I want to cover, okay? So there's a couple of different ways I might go with the subject line. If I can come up with something really compelling that around the subject, the topic that I'm pitching, that I can put in the subject line. I know it's better if you guys get examples. So today I was pitching my client who has a cookbook. All of her recipes are sugar-free, dairy-free, gluten-free. So I was pitching it around to magazines that feature recipes, and I tried a few different subject lines. I tested a few different ones because I think that's smart. We pitched like 12 different places, and I tried 3 different subject lines, so I'll see if any patterns emerge with that. But one of the ones I did that I really liked was healthy desserts you can't resist, and then I had in parentheses, and don't have to. Because these were all healthy desserts that we were pitching for the recipes. So hopefully that will be a subject line that gets them to open. I was only pitching food editors at all these magazines, so I know I'm on topic with what they cover. I pitched it to editors I know have covered healthy eating or vegan recipes or gluten-free recipes in the past. There's no point in me pitching it around to outlets that say don't ever put recipes up about desserts, or outlets who don't tend to cover the healthier side of food. So it was a very targeted approach. And so even though it takes a little while to research that and find the writers and the outlets that cover that sort of thing, the percentage of people who respond and who give us a chance is going to be much higher than if I just scattershotted it to everyone who's ever written about food before, okay? So you've got to have that compelling subject line. The other subject line I might have, if I was referred by someone, I'll probably put that in the subject line because that will get them to open it. Or if I've read a recent piece they did and I love, I might reference that in the subject line, but I'm for sure going to reference it in my very first paragraph, okay? I'll say, I recently read or I just came across your article, XYZ. I'd give the title and I would hyperlink it, okay? Because let's say what I found, they really wrote like 9 months ago. They might have forgotten. Maybe you need to jog their memory. At a lot of these places, they're pumping out like 8 pieces a day. Okay. If they're a digital writer at some of these magazines, even if they're one of the writers for the print magazine, the digital side puts out so much content every day that they're really writing a lot. And so I'll reference that piece that they wrote. Now, I'll pick a piece that is related to what I'm about to pitch them. So if they wrote a piece that was about gluten-free living and how hard it is to find desserts when you live that kind of lifestyle, that's the perfect piece for me to link to then pitch them this healthy dessert that my client has. Or even if it's just writing about gluten-free living in general, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be that they expressed a need that my client can fill. It's just if it's a related topic so that I can show them I did my research and my pitch is going to be relevant. Okay. You've got to grab them from like the very beginning of that pitch. And by putting right in that first paragraph that you read this other piece that they had, and by referencing it, they know you did your homework. They know that your pitch is probably going to be on point. They're going to keep reading. Okay. So then the rest of the pitch has to be compelling. And I've talked about that before in lives. But you want to give them like a shocking or surprising fact or question around your topic, and then shape out your topic a little bit, credential yourself as the one to speak about it with a little bit of your bio, and then close by asking them to do whatever it is you want them to do, book you for a podcast interview, run your recipe, whatever it is. But it's so important to have that personal approach, to have done a little research. And I am from the South. Y'all, it's not that hard to do, okay? So for my client today, I had already done the research previously and I was just pitching today, but when I did the research, I was just on Google looking up gluten-free recipes, vegan recipes, finding outlets that cover that, because that's where I want my client. Not only because they're more likely to say yes, but that's where her ideal client or customer is, okay? I know that those are the right outlets to put her in because they're covering those topics already. So I know that's where her people hang out. So the research is sort of twofold. Not only does it help you get into the outlet, it helps you make sure you picked the right outlet to begin with. Laura Marquis said she's late. She's just making it in. You missed it. I just talked about you, Laura. So I was using Laura as my example when I told you guys I represent a client who has a cookbook with all these yummy desserts. It's Laura. And actually, let's see. I did a live last week where I talked to you guys about the different books that I represent, and this is Laura's book, Sweets in the Raw. I think it was, Karen, it was you, I can't remember now, that in another group told me your daughter needed desserts like this that were gluten-free, and you said you were going to buy the book, so here you go, meet the author, Laura. So I was just using Laura as an example of how we research the magazines and the outlets that we reach out to for her to make sure we are on point with all of our pitches. So even though that takes you a little legwork, you're going to see better results than when you do that scattershot approach by using something like Cision or whatever. I can see you guys connecting down in the comments. I love it. So that's how you want to approach it. And that's why I say the press release is kind of dead, because I don't know a single journalist, and I know a lot of them. Like, my husband's a journalist too. We hang out with a lot of journalists. A lot of our friends are journalists. And I've had this conversation with them before, and we all grimace at the words press release because they tend to not give us much of what we need. And a lot of times it's not targeted for what we write. And maybe it's not even the angle we would have picked up. It's so much better to reach out with that sort of personal approach. Now, you're still pitching the topic just like you would, not just like you would, but it's serving the same purpose a press release would, to tell someone about what's going on with your business or your book, your product, whatever. But by having that sort of personal approach, I promise you're going to get better results. I know that as soon as I see the format, when I open an email and I see the format and I can tell it's a press release, I'm like already starting to tune out. Okay. But if you follow that approach I just gave you, where you start out by saying, I recently read your piece on XYZ, and I think that my client would be a great fit for your next piece, if I'm trying to get them to do like a mention of my client or whatever. When someone takes that approach with me, you better bet I keep reading the email. Now you have to continue to keep them hooked. You have to have developed your topic really well, and you have to credential yourself as the person to deliver that topic. But I promise you, by starting out like that, you're going to grab them from the very beginning. So save yourself the time and headache. You don't need anyone to write a press release for you, because you can write a pitch yourself. You don't need to spend money to put out on the wire. I beg of you. There's so many better places you could spend your money in your business. Please, please, please do not spend your money putting press releases out on the wire. I said I was going to mention one other client I worked with who made me do a press release. They were getting ready to open a new swimming center, and I sort of wanted to let the community know about it. And so I did write a press release because they forced me into it. But then I took a very personal approach when I sent the press release, and we ended up getting coverage in the local business journal. We got coverage on TV, but it's not because I put the press release on a wire. It's not because I emailed the press release in. Like, sometimes a newspaper will tell you, send all press releases to info@jacksonvillebusinessjournal.com or whatever. I didn't send it to that address. I found an editor who had covered something similar before, or a writer who had covered something similar before, and I directed my pitch to them. I made it clear I'd read their work and that I knew what they did and why they were the person I essentially chose to pitch in the first place. And then I gave them the press release. I could have done that without a formal press release. I would have preferred to do it, just done it as a pitch. Press releases get kind of lengthy and they take up a ton of room in emails. And like I told you, I see the press release and I mentally shut down as a journalist. So there are much better ways to do it. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking that's great, but I still don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. I don't know how to pitch like this. Then you're in luck, because not only do I teach you how to do that in my lives, and I've walked through this sort of pitch formula in here multiple times before, but I have a small group program that is starting next Monday. I'm so excited. A week from today. 10 people only. I only have 4 spots left in that group, but in that group, I am going to help you develop an individualized strategy for your media outreach. We are going to talk about how to identify the right outlets, how to find the right person at that outlet, how you find their contact information, exactly what should go into your pitch. I'm going to walk you through developing your pitch. I will read every single pitch you write during this group program if you want me to. I'll read the list of outlets you found. I'll tell you if you've left someone out. If I know someone, I'll introduce you to them, or you can drop my name. If you can't find their contact information, not only will I show you all sorts of sneaky ways to find their contact information, but if you still can't find it, I will find it for you, okay? There's never been anyone whose contact information I couldn't find. I also have some tools I pay for that I subscribe to where I can probably find it, but I am a master at hunting people down on the internet, so I will teach you all my tricks for that. And it's a 7-week program, and by the end of the 7 weeks, you're gonna have this whole big pitch list, you're gonna have all these pitches, and you're gonna be ready to pitch yourself for podcast interviews, guest blogs, magazines, features, TV appearances, anything you want to do. The only thing we're not really covering is public speaking, because I have a separate public speaking course that's out right now. Carrie, who I know was in here earlier, I don't know if she's still here or not, but Carrie is going through my public speaking course right now. So that's something that you can do kind of separately, that I decided to treat a little separately. But certainly what you would learn in this small group program about pitching, a lot of the pitch techniques are similar and translate over to public speaking as well. So we can actually put together your strategy for the entire year, and you will leave with all the tools you need to go out and pitch yourself. You won't have to hire a publicist. You can do it all yourself. And I limited it to 10 people because I want to get to know every single person's business. I want to get my hands in there. We're going to be in a private Facebook group. I am going to be in that group every single day. I will answer every question that goes up. There will be a training every week. There's going to be a Facebook Live question and answer every week. And I will literally review and edit every single thing you put together for the entire 7 weeks. And actually, it's going to run 8 calendar weeks, because there's going to be an implementation week where we make sure everybody's sort of caught up before we wrap up at the end. So if you are interested in learning more about the group program, definitely let me know here or drop me a private message. I would love to have some more folks from the group take those final 4 spots that are left. And if you have any other questions about pitching, about press releases, about this sort of idea of personal outreach versus using a press release, please ask now, ask after you watch the replay. I will keep checking back on this thread and will be happy to answer any questions you have. If I convince you not to send press releases anymore and to take this new approach, I know that I am doing a service for journalists everywhere, but I'm doing you a service too, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot more successful than those press releases, and it's going to be a lot less headache for you too, trying to learn how to write a press release, how to fit AP style, how to get it on the newswire, and all that money you were going to spend putting it on the newswire. No. That's not what we're doing, okay? So if I can help you, you let me know. If you want in the group program because you're ready to start landing this stuff like right now, then let me know. 4 spots left. Starts 1 week from today. Hope everybody is having a great Monday. Happy President's Day. And I will check back and see if you guys have any questions later. Thank you. Oh, wait, I'll stop. I saw a question. Carrie said, if they ask you to send a press release, are they effectively blowing you off? No. Okay, so press releases can be okay as a follow-up, and I don't know if you were here yet when I talked about that earlier. Sometimes I will send a press release as part of a follow-up. I think I said I only do that generally when that in-house PR people have put one together for me and I already have it. But if someone did specifically ask you for a press release, then I would send one in that case. I've never had anyone do that, but it could happen, I suppose. So if they do, then yes, in that case, I would send a press release. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I am going to run. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Happy Monday.